So Bitcoin is still facing major resistance level here at 24,300. We have not gotten a confirmation above 24,300. On our 4-hour candle, you can see we have a rejection of 24,300. For this Saturday update, snipers, I'm glad that you are tuned in today because we have a lot to talk about today. I'm here with Joshua Earp. And so far, what we're seeing during the weekend is Bitcoin is failing to get above 24,300. And so far on the hourly candles, we did get several hourly confirmations above this resistance level, but no full 4-hour candles yet above 24,300. So this is still a very important and critical resistance level for Bitcoin that we're currently facing. And on the 6-hour chart, just notice how we've yet to see institutional sell pressure. And so this move is currently ongoing with low volume. And so notice how we're also testing this channel resistance as a support here at 23,760. Josh, I would like for you to talk about your spider lines because I know you are also on your chart, it's testing a major resistance level. Let's talk about how Bitcoin is reacting to this extremely important area. I'm going to go ahead and switch to your screen because I want you to talk about this resistance level because on your chart, we have not crossed above the resistance level and there have not been any confirmations above your spider line.
For sure. Well, thank you, Naeem. It's my pleasure to learn from you and to share my viewpoints, of course. And these spider lines are 5 years old, as we mentioned, and they're very significant. And the exact spider line that we're crossing right now, we're on the daily chart, you'll be able to see, and I called this out, you'll be able to see this daily candle. Look at that wick. I mean, anytime we've ever wicked like this on the daily, and what's funny is because I thought actually this candle, I got fooled a little bit because I saw this candle almost touch the spider line. So I was like, oh, okay, we almost touched it here. So this is probably the local top. But in reality, the thing about Bitcoin, and I want you guys, everyone watching this needs to write this down. It's the most profound thing I've ever heard when it comes to the immediate short-term predictions of Bitcoin's price. And it is that Bitcoin will always do what you don't think it's going to do before it ends up doing what you know it's going to do. So usually if you think the price is going to dump, well then guess what? It's going to pump and then dump. Or if you think it's just going to, or vice versa, right? You don't need much explanation on that. So the whole thing is, yes, this spider line, we have not crossed it. And this one right here, so we've hit it once, arguably twice, 3 times, but also it's a very long term because remember, previous support turns into resistance. And if we follow this back, I actually have it circled on my chart right here. It ended up calling this support perfectly. Go ahead and delete it there so you can see it, but look at that, literally perfectly. Called that perfectly, called this right here perfectly. Goes all the way back to 2018. And so it's very, very important right now that we understand what's going on. And I'm just not going to get too bullish until we are able to cross above that line. And the crazy thing is when we reach a destination, we immediately turn back around. Naeem, I'm going to ask you a question. Looking at this current daily candle and this wick right here, hitting exactly our spider line. You cannot make this up. Exactly to our spider line. What do you think about this?
Well, I think this was the main
destination.
Yeah, this was the main reason that I wanted to go live today because I saw your spider line and the fact that we tested it and immediately got rejected on the smaller time frames. And so I thought that was really interesting to see. And we know the weekends are the most manipulated. And so I don't think it was a surprise for us to see this wick into the upside. But we have to question ourselves on whether or not this is a true breakout happening on the weekend or not. So I think that over the next 24 hours, we'll really get some answers here because we have a new monthly candle closing, we have a new weekly candle closing, and a new weekly candle opening up, a new monthly candle opening up. And so I'm very confident we're going to be seeing some sort of volatility, which we're already seeing. And so far for this monthly candle for Bitcoin, it's stuck between 19,798, the 2018 previous all-time high, and 24,300. So, are we going to be getting a close above it? Are we going to be getting a close below it? I think that at this point, it's quite likely that we close below it, but that doesn't mean that as Sunday and the new monthly candle opens up, we're not going to see volatility to the upside to wick into some higher price targets just based on how equity markets close the week strong. So, I think it's still important because 24,300, we did break above it on hourly candles. We had full confirmations. And I kept saying that we were waiting for hourly and 4-hour candle confirmations. We didn't get a 4-hour candle confirmation above 24,300. And on your chart, we didn't even get above the resistance level. It was just wicking into the spider line and an immediate rejection. So I would call that, it wasn't certainly a win for the bulls or the bears just yet. And that, we're still facing major resistance for Bitcoin. That's quite clear. And somebody in the chat mentioned Ethereum not moving up right now. So maybe we're seeing some Ethereum move into Bitcoin to manipulate the price during the weekend. Who knows? But what we do know is that we're still facing major resistance for Bitcoin. We don't have a confirmed breakout just yet.
Yeah, 100%. There's someone in the chat said, remove all the candles, draw random lines, and you'll see they get respected, especially when you have so many. That is completely untrue. That is completely untrue. In fact, if you draw random lines, you'll see what I mean. And if you want to do your own experiment, draw random lines, and then show me, then we can talk about it. But as you can see, I mean, these are just getting respected like crazy. And all I care about is if I'm winning or if I'm losing. And right now I'm winning. So, you guys can have fun drawing imaginary lines. That's fine with me. Let's see what else we have here. Okay, we'll get to a few questions later. So the whole thing is I wanted to just show you guys this on the daily. Also, the weekly is very interesting as well. One thing I will say is we're also above the 200-week moving average. It might be a little hard to see, but this right here, this green moving average coming up, you can see that we're well above the 200-week moving average. So that's good news for the bulls. But as far as like the daily, I'm just not liking the way that I see this. Really, our last hope of support is the top of this parallel channel, right? So this parallel channel, it's yellow. That's really the only thing that's holding us up right now. So if we were to go below that, then we could definitely see. Now, guys, I'm not saying this is going to start tanking like crazy. All I'm saying is I think there could be possible room to at least the weekly open, which would put us at around 22.5. So I think that's what's going to happen. When we look on the lower time frames as well, I mean, look at this 4-hour. This 4-hour is it's doing everything it can to hold itself up at this very critical line. But it's having difficulty. If we continue to make lower highs from this point on, then obviously, yes, we're going to be going down. The DXY, I believe, is frozen right now. But I do want to touch on it very quickly. And that is that we have broke this critical, I wouldn't even say it's that critical, but we broke the first Gann band, which is right here, this white line on the daily. But, there's a lot of confluence with the monthly open and this level at 104,223. And so, we could come all the way back down to this area, get a retest and a bounce, and still be considered bullish. Because we also have this very long-term horizontal line that has always been respected. So it's previous resistance. We all know that previous resistance becomes new support. And so it appears to be a possible scenario. Now, I guess we could look at things like futures and all that. Let's just go through it real quick. I'll give you my take. So the S&P, the double top right here, we'll see if it can make it. NASDAQ futures. So, same thing, barely made it, not really much volume. Bitcoin futures, we do have a CME gap right here, obviously, right here around the 28,000 range or so. But we'll see if we can fill it. And then let's just look at a few other revolving parts. We have the Dow Jones. So it's all pretty much the same thing. You can check out what Japan's doing. So I think it's going to end up happening I think what happens with Japan is going to also end up happening here. I mean, you can see how it's starting to turn red. If we lose the weekly open, then we definitely have room for the monthly open as far as Japan goes. But we also have Bitcoin versus SPY, so that's also not looking too good. You zoom in here, you can see kind of what I'm talking about. Also facing resistance, euro versus dollar, and then also the NASDAQ, right? Which I believe Naeem said that Bitcoin more closely follows NASDAQ rather than S&P, correct? So we did make a higher low, but one thing I do want to point out also with the Bitcoin price is that with the higher lows, or sorry, not higher lows, but higher highs. You can see right here on this double top, guess what? We made a higher high on this double top. The price still dumped, okay? Here's a top, here's a top. This one's a little higher, just like this one. And I still think we could have some room to the downside. I don't think it's gonna dump like hardcore. It may, but I'm definitely thinking the weekly open would be a good retest before continuing up further to the upside. So that's really all I wanted to say. Someone mentioned something about Ethereum. Why is Ethereum not going up? Well, because it literally went up a lot already. And to me, it looks like it could even go up even further. Really, this isn't much of a pullback to me. So I think it could even come up to 2,000 before it starts seeing more resistance. So that's kind of what we're seeing, guys. And I'll let Naeem take it away from here, but I just wanted to cover that and look at this daily candle. And really, like I said, the only thing that's really holding us up is this right here, this yellow line. So we'll see what happens. But
thank you so much, Josh.
Some questions or share anything you want to share?
Yeah, we'll definitely take some questions, and I really appreciate you showing us your chart there, because it really, it shows a lot there that it tested the spider line and it immediately got rejected so far. So, is it a final destination? I think today's daily candle is going to be extremely telling, because this is the first daily candle that's starting to really test this $24,300 level. And so we could see this daily candle transform into something else. But what we do know for sure is that we have a monthly open coming up here soon, which means this monthly candle is going to close. And so far we have an indecision candle. The weekly candle, very interesting that you pulled that up, Josh, because you can see we pretty much have a mirror of last week's weekly candle. It's just the opposite, where the body just so happens to be to the higher range to close versus the lower range, but we're pretty much still inside of the same price range as last week. And you can clearly see that with the S&P 500. If we actually pull up the monthly candle, notice how the monthly candle closed inside of the same range as last month's. And so you could just consider this, at face value, sideways price action over the last 30 days that we've seen in the equity markets. It just so happens that we closed in the upper range of the monthly candle instead of closing in the lower range. And so the S&P 500's monthly candle was certainly a sign of indecision. Nothing really happened over the last 31 days for the S&P 500 because it stayed inside of the previous month's candle range. And for the Bitcoin price, you can see it's showing a lot more weakness with this monthly candle because it's failed to regain some of last month's monthly candle, but still inside of the same price range as last month's monthly candle, just not performing as well. And that's clearly defined on the Bitcoin against SPY chart. So I would say that, last weekend we saw the equity markets close strong. We did see Bitcoin pump a little bit on the weekend, but even though the equity markets formed new consolidation highs last weekend, Bitcoin failed to do so, and it started to underperform. And this was also when Elon Musk announced that Tesla offloaded 75% of their Bitcoin spot position. And so could we say that, yes, the equity markets closed strong, but Bitcoin is still underperforming the S&P 500, which means that it may not see a complete breakout above 24,300. I think that's still likely on the table, and that's why the next 24 to 48 hours are going to be the most critical, because if we're going to be seeing a breakout, we should see it before equity markets open up, or at least futures markets open up tomorrow. And so If we don't get this breakout and then equity markets and futures markets open up and we start to see some sell-off in the equity markets or weakness in the equity markets, that could spell trouble for Bitcoin, and then that could open up that door, like you said, Josh, to come down to this weekly open first, which is right around 22,600, and then potentially even come further down to form another higher low. So who knows? We're definitely still facing resistance. As much as we want to call this, breaking out right now, on the 4-hour chart, we have not gotten any full 4-hour candle confirmations above 24,300, which means we do not have a confirmed breakout just yet. And now we got pushed back down into this tight range. And so let's continue to monitor the Bitcoin price, but no confirmation of a breakout just yet. So be very careful with leveraged long positions, in my opinion. And as a matter of fact, for those taking short positions inside of this range here at 24,000, make sure you still have those tight stop losses, but maybe not put them on the order books, and wait for candle confirmations to deploy those stop losses. Because I know some people may be taking a short position here at 24,000 with a very tight stop loss just below 25,000. But, a long position here, I would say, is probably the riskiest, because it would be tough to set up a stop loss anywhere, because really the weekly open is the only next level of support if we lose this area here at 24,000. And so that's about a 4% downside scenario there. So the long position would be not in favor here. Be very careful. Now, if we get full 4-hour candle confirmation and a breakout, now we can talk about 28,000 US dollars and a potential push up to this level, and that would fill that CME gap potentially as well. So that's the upside scenario if we can just get 4-hour candle confirmations, as we always look for here on the Snipers channel. And I see we've got Michael on our live stream, Swamp Gator. Good to have you guys. Smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm if you support this content, guys. And maybe we'll take one more question here. Nova says, hey, snipers. Buju Tusu says, I bet Joshua has already sniped a short from the top.
I may or may not be in a short right now. That's all I'm going to say. I may or may not have called every dump that we've had ever since we've been in this channel.
Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin is
may
certainly...
or may not. Yeah.
It's still facing resistance. I think that's the truth right now. And what I find a little bit interesting as well is how Bitcoin dominance potentially is going to be closing with this higher low. And we know if Bitcoin dominance makes a push to the upside, there's two ways that could happen. That could happen if the overall market dumps and Bitcoin just dumps less than altcoins. And so that could be a narrative to take Bitcoin dominance a bit further up into next month. Another way this could happen is the overall market. What we'll see during a bull market is if altcoins outperform Bitcoin, the total market cap can continue further up, and Bitcoin dominance could also continue further up. It just has to outperform the altcoins, where during a bull market, usually altcoins will outperform Bitcoin. And so in a bear market, there are times where we could see Bitcoin outperform altcoins and the total market cap continue up. So I think that it's interesting that Bitcoin dominance is making this move. I think that we'll see Bitcoin dominance move up at some point. But it is forming a higher low here. The Ethereum to Bitcoin chart so far forming a lower high. I think it would be a tough bullish case to put on the table here that the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart is going to continue to break out. 76,500 Satoshis is a key level for this monthly candle. So far, we have not gotten above it. And so could this be another lower high before it continues its sideways movement? I think that's on the table for the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart. Usually it'll continue, further up during a bull market. And so we'll see. I mean, heading into the merge on September 18th, there's a lot of hype, I guess you can say. But yep, I guess that's it. Josh, do you have anything else that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I want to make a bet with anyone who thinks the merge is actually going to happen this time. It wouldn't have been a bad bet the last 4 or 5 times. Let's see. Okay, let's go through, I guess, a few questions real quick. There's a lot. By the way, love Swamp Gator. You're awesome. No VA. Love that. I guess that means no virtual assistants, right? Naeem always looks so clean cut. Well, that's because he is clean cut.
Thank you.
I'm roughing it a little bit. Someone said mention Joshua YouTube channel. I think it should be in the description below. Someone's mentioning YFI. Okay, I guess I'll take a look at YFI real quick if you guys want. So we'll go ahead and check out the 30,000 supply coin, which is pretty interesting because of the fact that there's also a 10,000 supply coin, cvault.finance. But no, I totally see what you're saying here with Yearn. I mean, this is like the OG yield aggregate. Yeah, man, it's just like a middle finger just flipping you off, you know? It's like anytime you see a big spike like this, you do not want to be on the other side of it, you know? It's kind of like the S&P 500. You do not want to be on the other side of this thing. You know, it's like that big spike we just saw with Yearn.finance. You do not want to be on the other side of this thing. That's for sure. With Yearn here, Naeem is a true Bitcoin bull. You better believe it. We're both Bitcoin bulls. We hold a lot of spot positions with Bitcoin, and we just short for hedges, or at least I do. Naeem doesn't really short Bitcoin. Says the stream or the sound cut off for some reason.
It went off for a second, but it's good now.
Okay. Let's see what else we got here. Let's see. So someone's mentioning a good point here, which I completely forgot to bring up. So yes, Mt. Gox is going to apparently get some of the Bitcoin returned that was stolen in the breach. And the interesting thing about that is, yeah, the average price that people bought whenever they had their Bitcoin at Mt. Gox was about $300 USD. So that was the average price. And so if that Bitcoin gets returned to all those users, which is not the full amount, I think there's only a percentage of what was stolen or hacked or whatever going to be returned. But yeah, if that happens in August and everyone decides to sell, which, you know, you can't really blame them if they paid $300 and now the price is 23,000, whatever, right? You can't blame them for selling a little bit at least. That could be very bad for Bitcoin. Could be very, very bad for Bitcoin. So someone, you know, IK, you're very smart for mentioning that. Let's see. Yeah, that's about it. So anyway, let's see. When did you guys get into crypto? I got into crypto whenever Bitcoin was $2,000 a coin. I think what was that? 2015 or something like that? When was it 2,000 a coin?
Around that time.
Yeah, it was something like that. Naeem's probably been in before me. I got in like 2014, 15. When did you get in, Naeem?
Around the same time frame, and I started making YouTube videos on it in 2017, and never looked back since.
Let's see, August 10th, we got CPI for July. I don't even care about the inflation numbers. I remember we had some bad news on the inflation numbers and the price still pumped. I just, you know, I don't trust any of that stuff. And, you know, one thing I will say is also on the RSI, we are seeing some curls up on the RSI, but we also have a new monthly candle, right? Within the next 48 hours. We have a new monthly candle coming. But we'll see what's going to happen, guys. We'll see what's going to happen. We are approaching look at the 6 hour, the institutional time frame. So we're going to see what happens. We're going to see what happens.
Yeah, you know,
that's
with this new monthly candle, I'd say that what do the bulls really want with this monthly candle? I think that what they'd want is for this monthly candle to break above 24,300 and get a body closing above 24,300. I think that's what the bulls would want, because that could just easily transition us towards 28,000 to 30,000 with this new monthly candle that's opening up. And that would assume that Bitcoin just reclaims the full monthly candle that we saw in June. And the S&P 500 has already reclaimed its June monthly candle. So Bitcoin is starting to underperform the S&P 500, and that really started with all of the liquidations with Three Arrows Capital, Voyager, Celsius, and so forth. So, since it's been underperforming the S&P 500, it's been tough for Bitcoin to get above this $24,300 level. So, I think that there's a likelihood for the most obvious scenario, which is this monthly candle closes below 24,300, and that means that the monthly candle is pretty much an indecision candle holding the 2018 previous all-time high, and that would really put the bulls and the bears on their toes for this next monthly candle opening up, because if we start to see price action above 24,300, who knows how far that could go, and it could even be a wick. And so this is an interesting monthly candle close, in my opinion. The weekly is even more interesting because you can see these two candles pretty much mirror each other. I would say that our current weekly candle has a slightly bullish bias because it's formed a little bit further highs and didn't form any further lows from last week's candle. So there is a slight bullish bias here, but the fact of the matter is we've already had 3 weekly candles close below the 200-week moving average. And so for this one to be the first one closing above the 200-week moving average, is there likelihood that we come back down to test this area here below the 200-week moving average? I think that if we're going to see a breakout, it needs to happen in the next 24 to 48 hours, or else the momentum will slow down, and then the likelihood that we could see downside becomes higher. And so we do not have a confirmation of a resistance level breaking just yet, Thomas. He's asking for Bitcoin right now. What's going on? He just tuned in. The main topic for today's video has been the fact that Bitcoin rejected a spider line so far on Josh's chart, which is a major resistance. On my chart, my major resistance at 23,000 or 23,795 is holding, but 24,300 is not holding. We don't have any full 4-hour candles confirmed above that resistance level, which means that Bitcoin is still facing a resistance level. And so do you want to take a long position when we've yet to get confirmation of a break of a resistance level? It's probably not the wisest decision, because if this is a resistance level, well, what does a resistance level do? It shows resistance. And so if this doesn't follow through in the next 24 to 48 hours, and now equity markets open up and there's opportunity for equities to slow down a bit and maybe pull back, that could be a bull trap here, and we could be seeing this reject at a resistance level, right? So that's why we want to wait for that confirmation, that 4-hour candle confirmation. And of course, if we get that 4-hour candle confirmation above 24,300, I would assume the next destination is 28,000 in the immediate short term. That would test this descending channel resistance, and it would also allow Bitcoin to fill its CME gap. So we talked about that yesterday, but we do need that candle confirmation on the 4-hour chart, and preferably a candle with bullish symmetry. So we'll continue to monitor that. For those that are tuned into the channel, thank you all for tuning in today. Joshua, thank you so much for getting on the live stream. His channel link is in the description below, and we appreciate each and every one of you guys tuned in. We hope you enjoyed today's update, and Josh and I will see you guys next time. Thank you for showing the altcoins as well, Josh. We'll do more altcoin requests on this channel. All right, Sniper.